Hello! We are going to do a February wrap-up. I'm gonna make this quick. That's what I tell myself each time, and I don't make it quick. Disappointing. So I'm not gonna do everything I've read just because I didn't really care about everything I read. I feel like February didn't happen. Like I blinked and it was there, and then I blinked again and it was gone. Scary. Let's get my reading journal. The first title we can talk about is Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh. I got the arc on NetGalley. I started reading it in January and I didn't finish it until the very beginning of February, so I don't really remember much. I know, is it the Bars and Bookcase? The Bar and Bookcase? That booktube channel, love him. He did like a whole 20-minute video dedicated to this book. I refuse to watch it until I have this out and published. I don't want my thoughts tainted. That being said, Lapvona is like nothing we've ever seen from Ottessa Moshfegh. The book spans within the period of a year, starting in spring, ending in spring. The symbolism of the seasons is right there, even what happens within those seasons. But basically this takes place in a little town, and it sort of rotates through like a handful of characters. But we mostly get the perspectives through Jude, who is a lamb herder, and then Merrick, who is his son. He suffers from a lot of physical deformities. This book talks a lot about father-son relationships specifically. It deals a lot of symbolism from the Bible. Religion in this town is sort of an oppressive figure, or an oppressive energy, really, and it seems to sort of hold the town back. For Jude and Merrick, there's this association of pain equals religious sanctity. Jude will whip his back every night and he forces Merrick to do that. Sort of his thought process is like, oh, with the more suffering I endure, the closer I am to God, because God favors those who have suffered as much or even more so than him. Jude in general, he's just a fucking asshole. He believes that his ideals and his goals are in no way harmful to other people. He's one of the most dislikable characters I've ever read. Merrick is a boy of 13 about, and he's so desperate for a maternal and paternal relationship that he is willing to do anything for his father, and he holds God so dear into his heart that he's willing to incorporate like Jude's thought process of pain equals love. And oftentimes Merrick will beg Jude to beat him, or Merrick feels that Merrick will take a rock and hit it against his own head. Merrick says it like directly in the book. Pain was good. Merrick felt it brought him closer to his father's love. Another one, he lived for hardship. It gave him a cause to prove himself superior to his mortal suffering. And then another one I put down was, Merrick was heartened by his father's renewed disdain, as this made God love him more through pity. So very different for Ottessa Moshfegh. It goes beyond Merrick and Jude's relationship. It sort of weaves in this fantastical element of a woman who is blind, but she has all these different types of magical properties to her, through her breast milk, through her sight, through her hearing. Very odd. We have a very selfish like governor type of figure who is so oblivious to like the suffering of people around him. I'm interested to see how people will take this. I really enjoyed it. It's a pandemic book. I feel like Moshfegh was feeling a little cooped up. Next, I read White Fragility, a book for white people, about white people. It's in the title, why white people are afraid to talk about race. I think the criticisms that we've heard from the black community are 100% valid. I wish that there was more facts in it, more references to American history specifically. Another criticism was that this is another anti-racist book written by another white person. A lot of people in the black community are saying, you know, y'all need to step back. We need to have more black voices talking about black stories. And yeah, I agree. I think this is a great book as a beginning of becoming an anti-racist for the white community, as well as the Hispanic and Latinx community, because they can be equally as racist. I myself am Puerto Rican Dominican. I can say that for a fact. The fact that this book has to be written in itself is so fucking depressing. Everything here felt so obvious to me, but apparently it's not. And I guess that makes sense because privilege. I think my favorite part in the book was how she had gone to this company and this white man said like, oh, the Irish went through the same thing. Living in Rhode Island, where we're infamous for like mobsters, of movies about that sort of subject matter take place here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. The Irish suffering from racism is something that is brought up quite often, and I think every person of color in this state will agree that it is. DiAngelo kind of makes this great point that she's like, why don't we talk instead about how the Irish became white in America? And I was like, that's a great question. Next, The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. I'm not going to tell you what this is about because everyone and their mother has read this. There's a gazillion videos across the globe that can tell you what this is about. Also, my heater is on. I'm sorry. I'll tell you that I didn't like it. I thought it was very slow. This book is infamous for the one sex scene in this book that is 2 chapters long. I'm sorry, but like a titty cannot fit in your mouth. That is the weirdest thing in the entire world to write. Horse dick wasn't said in this book, but it was insinuated for a romance that doesn't have to do with like aliens or literally anything else that isn't real life. I just don't need horse dicks. Do you know what I'm saying? Even when it's insinuated, I just don't need it. Like Olive, I thought she was very annoying. Too much in her head. Her best friend, who kept on peer pressuring her, I felt like it was just another plot device. Referring back to the sex scene, I felt like what really bothered me the most, beside horse dick and putting a titty in your mouth, was that it felt so out of character for Adam. He keeps it to himself, like known to be a dick, but then all of a sudden becomes like an absolute sex beast. A little too out there. When I started reading it, I was like, I finished the book and I was like, no thanks. I read Holy Cow by David Duchovny. Love David Duchovny. X-Files is my favorite show of all time, and he is a writer. This is what Animal Farm should have been. It's about a cow who discovers what the meat industry is, and so her, a pig, and it might have been a turkey. Yeah, a turkey. They basically run away and they end up like flying across the globe and stealing a plane. Not a lot that happens in this book, but it's quite small. The characters are so fucking cute. I love the questions they asked. Animal Farm was just too much for me, and this was just right. I also ended up listening to it mostly as an audiobook, and David Duchovny narrates it. David Duchovny in my ear, yes. Angel and Hannah by Ishle U. Park. This was perfect. I just purchased this last month in January, and this rocked my fucking world. This is about a cross-racial relationship in Queens. Angel is a Boricua or Puerto Rican, and Hannah is Korean. This follows their relationship as young teens to when they get older. You see this young, naive love turning into something more, I don't want to say toxic, but more eventful. Something rooted in this relationship that they hadn't seen from the very beginning. I usually don't get along with adult novels and verses. I find it to be boring, and this was actually stunning. If you don't mind, I want to read you a little bit from this. There were 2 children lost under the merciless glare of city lights, a Korean and a Boricua, diaspora kids, brave enough to ride underground trains like metallic waves just to catch the electric surge of a hug from a budding red gold love. Throbbing, hot, burning. When she met him, she felt the loneliness in him call out the loneliness in her. Her pain folded up like a tight virgin rose. His pain pulled her in like a gaping black hole. Quiet, proud boy, his honey brown eyes. She sees them as 2 kids hand-holding over glittering street lamppost, arching overhead like acacia trees. Young ones in search of a thornless bed to sleep. The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake. I'm in love with this. I thought this was fucking perfect. I didn't even know it was dark academia until I finished it, and I was like, oh, if I had known that, I probably would have stayed away, to be honest, and I'm so happy I didn't. Let's talk about it. This is about 6 adults, ranging, I would say, from like the age of 22 to maybe 30, and they are welcomed into this school run by a man named Atlas. It's a magic school, and by the end of the year, one of them will not be able to continue on in their education and will not be able to use the tools that the school provides. A lot of people have described this as being plotless. I think that's just because like the whole thing takes place in their school, not a lot of action happens. It's a character-driven story. I felt the magic was completely plausible, a lot like Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. A lot of the magic is controlled by the elite. Loved it. I thought this was so good. Like, I don't know how to go on. The Secret History, but with magic and 10 times more digestible. Whoever said this book doesn't have a plot, your mother's a hoe. I want every character in this book to choke me. No thoughts, head empty. This, girlies, this is it. For colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. By, and I cannot pronounce her name. This is the queen right there. Officially my second favorite play, right behind Angels in America by Tony Kushner. This was absolutely brilliant. It gives character to these black women who are assigned a color, and these different colored women each have like different stories and experiences that they're sharing. Luna, please. The audiobook is 45 minutes long and it's for free on YouTube. Please listen to it. There are stage productions for free on YouTube. Please watch it. There's a movie for TV on YouTube for free. Please watch it. I'm considering buying tickets to the Broadway revitalization of this play that's coming out, I think in April, as like a graduation present to myself. I'm gonna read from this also. I used to live in the world and then I moved to Harlem, and my universe is now 6 blocks. When I walked in the Pacific, I imagined waters ancient from Accra, tunas cleaning me, feeding me. Now my ankles are coated in gray filth from the puddle neath the hydrant. My oceans were life. What waters I have here sit stagnant, circling old men's bodies, shit and broken little whiskey bottles left to make me bleed. I used to live in the world, now I live in Harlem, and my universe is 6 blocks, a tunnel with a train. I can ride anywhere, remaining a stranger. I used to be in the world, a woman in the world. I had a right to the world. Then I moved to Harlem for the setup. A universe, 6 blocks of cruelty piled up on itself, a tunnel closing. Can I do another one? You call me at 3 o'clock in the morning on weekdays so I could drive 27.5 miles across the bay before I go to work. Charming, charming. But you are of no assistance. I want you to know this was an experiment, to see how selfish I could be, if I would really carry on to snare a possible lover, if I was capable of debasing myself for the love of another, if I could stand not being wanted when I wanted to be wanted, and I cannot. So with no further assistance and no guidance from you, I am ending this affair. This note is attached to a plant I've been watering since the day I met you. You may water it your damn self. Are you fucking kidding me? Girlies, I got my first ever Illumicrate box. Super exciting. And I read The Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. My first book by her. She's a YA author, in case you didn't know. She's got like 1 million books. And I thought this was great. I don't really know how to give a synopsis for this without maybe spoiling it. This has to do with, is it Ajin? I believe it's Ajin. Being sort of a lesser people. And our main character is sort of the descendant of the original Ajin, sort of making her royalty. She just wants to live a very simple life by herself. Right now, she's just a whack-ass housemaid. And then we have a prince to the kingdom. Doesn't really want to be a king. Doesn't want those responsibilities. Just wants to be in the military and keep to himself. They meet each other, and it's not love at first sight. Thank you, Jesus. It's not love at first sight. Intrigue by first sight, yes. And that is all I'm really gonna say. This was great. I just really liked the characters. A word I like to use is grounded. And I would say that these characters were grounded. Both of our characters grew up with very different lifestyles, right? And the prince, he grew up with this singular view of the world, is more than willing to question the ruling extent of power and how that power has been utilized to rule the kingdom. Love that. Versus characters who we a lot of times see in YA will see someone who they think they love at first sight and will be like, I'm gonna drop everything with you and overthrow the government. These two characters are like, no fucking way, dude. She's like, I'm an Ajin. I got to get the fucks out of here. And this guy's like, I'm a prince. I can't fucks with you at all. I can't even look at you right now. That's my review for this book, and I'm gonna stick to it. I read volume 2, 3, 4 for Toilet Bound, a manga series about a boy who's a ghost at a school, and he's in charge of all the spirits in this school, and they're important to the functioning and safety of the children at that school. And then he has a human assistant. I love it. Who the fuck doesn't love toilet balance? 5 stars. Each volume, 5 stars. Duh. I read volume 6 of Where the House Husband. It's another manga series. Basically an ex-gangster who becomes a house husband. And he loves couponing, and he loves his wife, and he loves cleaning and cooking. And in this volume he joins like a local gardening committee. And it's stunning. 5 stars. Hello. Duh. And at the end of the manga they announce that they're doing, I think, a live action adaptation. Are you fucking kidding me? 5 stars. I read volume 2 of Money Shot. This is a comic book series about our world where we like really don't fuck with scientists. Their funding has been completely depleted, so these like handful of scientists who are forced to share this one research center are like, okay, we need money, we need to come up with a plan. And one of the girls is like, well, the porn industry is like really popping right now, especially like weirdish sort of alienish porn. And she was like, well, why don't we just go have intergalactic orgies? We'll get funding through people who buy subscriptions, who pay to see the videos. We'll borrow technology, we'll learn from those aliens, and we'll become famous scientists, and we'll be able to fund our work. It's great. And so that's what these comic books are about. Like I said, I'm only on volume 2. I'm hoping to read the whole series eventually. It's not completely raunchy. Like, it's definitely pro-sex, of course. But it's not like these alien orgies are taking place across like 6 pages. Like, it's usually something that's like a 2 to 3 page spread only. It's not so in your face. They also help aliens who are being colonized and stuff like that. And volume 2 was definitely more on the political side versus like the alien sex. I read Orochi, the Perfect Edition by Kazuo Umezz. So this is an arc, and Kazuo Umezz, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, he wrote The Drifting Classroom, which is a horror manga series. I've read it all. No, I don't think I got to read the last 2 volumes. I was a fan of the series. It was more of a thriller with like horror elements, I felt, and I felt the same way for this one. I think this author is really strong at giving characters really evil motives very unexpectedly. The way they're able to sort of switch and be all innocent and cutesy, and then the next page be like, actually, I killed my aunt, I killed my uncle, I fucked my cousin, and then I killed her too. Like that type of energy. That doesn't happen in these books, but I'm saying it's like that. Orochi is about this younger girl who has these magical abilities that we don't really know to what extent they go to. She finds herself running into these people that just feel that they are cursed, and so she tries to help them, but sometimes her help really isn't the best thing to do in this situation. Sometimes it's better if maybe she just minded her own business, but she has good intention. And that's that. That is my wrap up. Hope you loved it. I hope March is a stunning month. It better be. I'm gonna be very angry if it isn't. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be very pissy. I had to clean my depression room like 3 times. Look at my yin yang nails.